欢迎 Mortgage Naso 进入直播间。欢迎秋子不好似进入直播间。欢迎彩色蓝蓝进入直播间。 萌新小月光说：“点歌好运来。”
This is obviously electrical, the electrical wire wheel, same thing outside. I love the idea of keeping the front of the truck here. We could have made for more storage, but I wanted people to know this was a truck.
Like in a bus. Let's go on adventure.
Let's go!
I love adventure.
Love adventure.
If you wanted to start it up, you could.
Yeah, we can move it.
Yeah.
Part of the attraction of us for tiny homes is the fact that nothing is permanent.
Close the window.
Yeah, it's gonna rain. I like the idea that maybe it could be moved. Obviously, it's quite tall. It's quite tall.
Yes, it is.
I can move it to another area on the property.
Hi, Zipeng here. I'm art director, designer, animator, illustrator, and also the founder of design studio Dazzle. I'm here to create a series of video tutorials on Editor X, the advanced web creation platform for the pros. I'll be showing you how to create impressive interactions, wow effects, and responsive hacks using features like overflow, animations, sticky positions, and a few of my own design skills. So stay tuned, more video coming soon.
Set sail on the dawn of an adventure. And join the quest to become the king of pirates in One Piece Treasure Cruise. Reunite with various characters and recruit your pirate crew with friends from around the world. Courting treasure and conquering adversaries. Show off your pirate prowess and take to the sea. Adventure awaits. One Piece Treasure Cruise. Together as One Piece.
Bandai Namco.
We call this property an aerial landé. It's typical in the land. You have usually one or two houses, one wheel, and three, and one fireplace. And they used to do the bread in it. So my mom passed away in 2009, and I decided I had to share this property with my brother. So I decided to buy his part, everything, and we decided to live on this little one, to rent the big one.
None of this other units were here.
No, it was just a little one. We bought this part, €150. It was an old farmer platform. At the beginning, it was a truck.
欢迎 DILI 4288-033-0638进入直播间。
And it was like that. And then you can't see it was a truck before. We try to use only local materials. We try to be in harmony with the forest. And it's why there is big openings. So you feel like you're outside, when you're inside cozy and warm. So here we have the kitchen, and you have all you need. Like you have a stove.
Ah, so you cover it when you're not using it to.
Yeah. So we can use it to put some stuff in it, because every space needs to be minimalized. And here you have a oven as well. And a huge fridge.
It is huge. It's not even needed.
And the freezer here. You try to get the more space you can, so you use the walls and the la hauteur.
Yeah, like I like this piece that just hangs with part of the forest.
Oh yes, this one, those. Yeah, that's a tree.
It's a real tree from here.
Yeah.
It's great.
You pick it up here. And here, in Pandry, to hang your clothes. Every little bit is. You have the shower here. I can go inside. Yeah, I fit. So you have a shower and a sink, like everything you need in a real bathroom.
That's like
It's with batteries. Yeah.
Just to
Up.
great.
So this is a room of my daughter. She stayed here from 18 months to 6 years old.
It sort of disappeared down in there. I mean, tiny.
Yes.
It is a
欢迎
room.
拿
I'm
捏
you're
土机
standing.
进入
right?
直播间。
Yes, it was the room of my daughter. It's like a little cabin. She was so cool here. She used to sleep here until 6.
And then she was just too big.
She was touching here. So we moved. Here you can undo and you can tidy up stuff. Storage. You have storage here and as well here. It's important to maximize every space. This is where we used to sleep
So you had to crawl up at night.
and go down when she calls me and come back up.
And my wife pees like 5 times a night.
For real, at night, I had a pot, a baby pot, into the shower, and I was peeing inside. And in the morning, I was going out to empty it. Yeah. Because we never had a toilet when we were
We didn't have a
living.
dry toilet for
收到
years.
来
We
自
did
拿
it
捏
when
吐
we
司的
started
十
to
份
rent
辣
it.
条，
We would just go
欢
on the
迎
floor.
可
And
波
she
特
had
进入直播
one
间。
gastro.
Stomach glue. Oh.
Yeah, we were so lucky.
So it didn't feel claustrophobic.
No, and you have a big window again
Yeah.
with a view on the trees.
I mean, you don't have
Yeah.
much of an opening. So
Like a boat.
So there's a time in your life when this would work, when you have a very small child and it's just a couple up top.
Exactly.
And that works. But then you had to move. You have to keep
Then
moving.
she was getting bigger and we needed to extend the house as she was extending herself. Yeah. But, we found the solution. We have a lot of space outside, so we moved to the next house. And we decided to rent this one. To live here attracts a certain kind of people because it's in the middle of the forest and it's super atypical. So we have a dentist living here. She works in Bordeaux, but she doesn't want to live in a big city. She goes to Bordeaux twice a week. She decided to live away from the city and be in a wilderness. Et je voulais vraiment que cette propriété, ça devienne un lieu d'échange, de rencontre et de partage. La tiny house, il faut s'adapter au fur et à mesure que la
欢迎
famille change et
19636
grandit.
进入直播间。
So after this one, we rebuilt the little one to have more space.
Yep.
So we just came from 18 meters square to 43 meters square. So this is a palace. And we decided to rent this one. Then we are on a Compostelle path. So I wanted to have a bus to
Yeah.
welcome the walkers. We paid her dad to do it. And on the way,
He's
when
super
he was
talented.
doing this
JC's
one,
super talented.
he was supposed to buy a house and it took longer than he planned.
Yeah.
So they asked us to live in it.
Yeah.
So they lived
that was cool.
1 year and 3 months. So her dad, the stepmom, the little sister, and
her
her
sister.
So she was 1 week
欢迎
here, 1 week
Nicholas
with us,
进
1
入
week
直
here,
播
1 week
间。
with us. So we kept the original windows because I want to keep the fact it's a bus and keep it original. So when you're inside, you can forget that it was a bus. But with the windows, and you still have the writing, like when you're in a bus, the emergency.
So where did the bus come from?
I used to work in a canoe place. We were bringing the people to the riverside with this bus. And at the end of the season, it needed to be changed. And they knew I wanted for a Compostelle walkers. So they offered me the bus.
So you got a free bus. I mean, that's a great start.
Yeah. So we kept the shape of the bus. We put isolation.
Insulation.
Yes, and then a cover of wood. We had to do something with the floor because it was high. So when we put off all the seats, we realized it was high, and in the middle was an alley, smaller. But when you're on the side, for me it's good, but for men or women higher than me, you can't cook and being like that, and you can't take a shower. So we decide to keep this part low, so you can access to everything without being too crowded and
So this is a pretty regular kitchen. I don't know that.
it's a house fridge. So you have fridge and you have a freezer here.
And sink is regular as well. It doesn't
Yes.
sit all small.
No.
Everything.
Yes. The oven as well is regular.
But actually, there's quite a lot of sleeping space, right?
Yes. Yeah, here you have 2 beds
欢
and
迎接收
under
你同事
you
进
have a
入
lot
直播
of
间。
space to tidy up.
欢迎九
And
霄
here's
烟
the
尘
same.
进入直
And
播
then you
间
have。the big bed over there. So it's 4 people. So here, as we have not so much space, we had to use the same door for the toilet and for the bathroom.
So you can only have privacy in one spot at once.
Yeah. But that's also a part of it, because in a big house, when you have toilet and bathroom and everyone can do everything at the same time and everyone does his own stuff. Here you need to adapt and adjust. So, okay, I'm going to the toilet. Can you wait a minute before you take your shower? You take more in consideration the others. Or if you need more intimacy, someone needs to go outside. And as you have less of space, if you cook and someone
欢
wants to
迎不
go
懂人心的小动物
behind, you need to
进入直播
communicate.
间。
You can open. That come from the bus, it's original. And we had the same here, but we decided to put that for more light.
Skylight. Actually, you see the trees
Yes.
dropping. And the wood is all local?
For bathroom odors that linger, try Febreze Small Spaces. Just press firmly and it continuously eliminates odors in the air and on soft surfaces for 45 days.
Wasn't
Why
the
you
original
are
Leland
making
Napoleon?
those
Wasn't Napoleon decide to make it an industry
know.
tree farm? But there's a lot of tree farming in the area.
Yes. My family got 300 hectares.
Yeah.
And they grow trees and sell the wood and grow again and sell the wood.
There's something nice about small homes inside a forest. It's very fairy tale like
Yes,
in a way.
and it reminds you that we are here, but we are in the forest, like we are squatting. Or like when we have spiders inside, or ladybugs, or we are in their environment. It goes to the other side.
So this is for sort of deep storage.
Yes, exactly. So when this bus was for the canoe, we were putting the paddles under. Yeah, we have the gas bottle for the kitchen.
So it's really still a bus.
Yeah.
It can
No.
move. It can move.
He came here driving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all,
yeah.
All the things on wheels can be moved.
We were here for 2 months.
It's all wood in there.
This was a camper? Or?
Yeah. This one is tiny, just a bed. We lived 2 months in it. So I put some more storage, some more lights.
So you lived here?
Yeah.
2 months.
So why here? What was the...
I was panicking financially and I rented my house.
So he wanted to rent a house, I don't want it. So I said, okay, we're gonna do it, but super expensive.
Yeah, and then people paid.
We had some bookings and I said, we need a plan B for us.
Yeah, she didn't think people would book, but they did. They did.
So we found this one and
can
we
move.
put it here so you have a outside space.
So you put indoor furniture out here, actually.
Yes. So that belongs to my grandma, and when I moved her from her house to Fox home, I bring this here. The sewing machine as well.
So here you're really using the outdoors. Your whole kitchen, living room is...
Shower's right here. So you can look at the pump shower right there. We need to pump it.
So you're pumping water.
And then you take your shower.
And take your shower. It's great in the summer. Great in the summer.
But you also can boil the water,
Yeah.
put it in, and take a hot shower outside.
So it's just a camping thing.
Yeah.
The hearth is like that here because there is some pipes. So all the electricity come from the house to the fireplace, and then you have trench to go to every unit. We did the same with water.
So that was an expense.
Yeah.
欢迎不法游击者进入直播间。
This is one for the wood trailer, the bus, the main cave, and from here.
Yeah.
So we know exactly what people use as electricity.
Right.
So when they rent monthly, every month I calculate and they pay just what they used.
Yep.
It's like a community with all the people living here.
Probably gonna hit me. There it is. But it doesn't hurt.
So this is the big house where my mom used to live. And right now we are renting it year long. And we would love to renew it.
But you don't live in it because it's bigger than yours. So you
Yes.
could have a bigger house, but you'd prefer what you have.
So as you can see, the windows, Arle, the windows are really small. And I need to see the forest and big opening. You got so many. You got so many mushrooms. It's cool. We wanted to save the water. So when it's raining, the water goes here. It's a water tank. And then we open the tap and we use the water to wash our hands, to water the plant. We could drink it if we were putting plants here to filter the water.
It's not like your traditional big plastic ugly water tanks.
No, I don't want it that. I'm super conscious about decoration and visual, and I want it to be here without grabbing the attention. This is where we moved when my daughter was too big.
And this was originally here, like this?
Yes,
It was beat up and old.
this is the old way of doing it.
欢迎
This
收
one
顶
is
号进入
original
直播
and
间。
those two as well. But this one is new and the one who cross are new. We have 2 rooms, 2 bedrooms. So this is my daughter's room. When we moved here, she was starting the big school, so she needed a desk for homework.
Sometimes when I'm tired, I don't want to climb.
You mean I carry you up?
No, before.
She never failed.
I'll carry you always.
Oh, now it's a big bed.
Yes, she went from the tiny bed to a big bed.
Sometimes when I play hide and seek in the house, I come hide with you.
So here it's her closet. She used to have clothes everywhere. So she did amazing and reduced. So now her brother is going to have all his stuff here. And the idea is to cut in the middle and to put the bed here. This is a bench where you can tidy up stuff and it's on wheel. So we're going to move it here and then we can put the bed here.
Right.
So it's going to be cozy and comfy. All the books gonna go up because she has space on her bed, and then we can tidy up the clothes.
Yeah.
Oh, so you could use that for clothes, the bookshelf.
Yeah. This is our room, and I made a little area for baby for the first month. So we decided to have big windows and just a bed in a room.
Yeah.
Here we have our closet. And here we have the bathroom.
Oh, God, this feels big now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and bright. And a real toilet. But the first time we moved in, Pran didn't know what to do with the paper.
Yeah.
She said, should I put it in a trash or can I put it inside? And I said, no, it's a real one. You can put inside. Yeah. We have the trash here.
And that's easier to have it there.
Yeah. And we save space.
We tried.
Usually trash goes under, but here we have...
Oh, so using that corner space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we use the height.
Yeah. I love this rounded.
Yeah, so that's the end
of this table.
Counter.
Yeah.
That you cut.
Yeah, it's
Cut,
like...
and then reuse it.
Et ça, c'est un plateau que j'ai mis sur des pieds.
Tu as fait ça?
Oui. This table, I hate it. I'm going to change it. But it's super convenient because you can tidy up stuff. As we don't have a lot of space, it's convenient. But I am thinking of creating another table because it's not wood and I don't like it.
It's functional.
It's functional.
Yeah.
You want to pick these? I don't know if those are good. Do you think those are good? They look good, huh? Let's go.
People say, you're so lucky. It's a choice. We created.
This compound is about building it around what your needs.
Exactly.
This worked when you had a small child. It wouldn't work now.
I mean, anything's possible, but functionally,
This is too small now, so you've had to move on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's a little bit like a snail.
I think
you outgrow your
I
right.
think so.
Yeah.
We choose to live in a way
simple.
and keep building and using it to have passive streams of income coming in, not wasting our money on huge, giant, ridiculous house, huge, giant, ridiculous cars.
We could already live in a big house, but then we rather live in a small space and simplest.
Lots of mushrooms.
Like so, man.
Yeah, really.
Ensemble bourgeoise. We start at 18 meters square, now 43 meters square.
And
Ensemble bourgeoise.
This is an island, Bainbridge Island. When I moved here, there were about 8,000 people, and there are now 28,000 people. And so when I moved here, it was mostly dropouts like me. I was moving directly from the west side of Philadelphia to Bainbridge Island. We moved here in 74. By 76, we thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to live here? So I bought this place in 76. It was a cabin that was sitting down about 6 feet off the ground here. And I bought a bunch of house jacks. I rented house jacks and cribbing, and I jacked the cabin up 8 feet in the air. This is a younger version of me with the jacked up. That's the old cabin.
That's amazing. You just lifted it.
Yeah, we jacked it. I dragged those beams under it and got rented house jacks, and we jacked it and moved up there.
So it was a cabin? Like what kind of?
It was a summer cabin. It was a little 20 by 20 box. What I did was I built a house under it while we were living upstairs. And so we started raising a family here, and we've lived here now 44 years.
So you didn't want to completely tear down the cabin?
Well, I didn't have any money, and I set a budget of building the house for $9,000. The original glass, I milled all the windows myself out of lumber that I went to the lumberyard and just picked the good sticks. The original glass, I bought the candy counters out of an old candy store that was being torn down, and I cut them into size for this. That's why the mullions are 2 foot 10 3/4, because that was the size of the counters. The point is that we did it. I built it stick by stick.
You didn't just design it, you built it.
Oh no, I built it. I built this just like Hannah and I built that. I get great pleasure out of physically building things. So the reason we did the cabin, I have worked and lived on this property for 44 years. Because I don't do design work at my office because I'm interrupted too often, I would always do all the design work on all our projects, including Gates' house. Here in this little back room in the cabin, it's almost like a basement. I just got to the point where I thought, I've been living on the water for 40 years, and why shouldn't I be looking at the water when I'm working? And Hannah had wanted a place, she wanted to build a cabin for sleepovers. She was 10 at the time. And there had been a little brick terrace and outbuilding in here. It took us about 8 months of just Hannah and I working on it. I wouldn't let her up on the roof, but all the walls, we cut out everything in the garage. We pre-assembled the whole building in the garage, and then we'd carry it out from the garage. The building's sort of built backwards, where all the framing is exposed, and I put the insulation outside the framing because I thought it would look cool. And frankly, I thought, if I'm building this with a 10-year-old, I better pick a vocabulary of construction that could accept a great deal of inaccuracy. And so we decided to build it in rough sawn material so that if we had a joint that was a little bit off, it would feel totally acceptable.
The footprint is just not much. It's
8 by 10.
8 by 10.
On the outside.
And why 8 by 10?
It's what fit. No, what it is there's enough room for the wood stove and clearance. I got a 6'6" bed. I've got 2'8" between the desk and this, but you can see the beds fold out of the walls. There's the upper bunk and then there's the lower bunk. Both of them fold up. The desk folds down. You can see the hinge. And so when everything's folded down, it's just big enough for a 6-person poker table. Because I play poker with the same guys I've been playing poker with for 42 years. It's got all these all the beds fold out of the walls so that she could have someone sleep over. And this is called a traction strut. This thing weighs about 100 and some pounds, but the traction strut, it's like the reverse of one of those lifts on a tailgate or something like that. It slows down the weight to let this down. Then this gets let down. These little thingies here get pulled out like that. I made these guys. So this side lays on them, and then this is the weird one. Do you see this turnbuckle here? This bar, see those two steel plates up there? I dropped that in there with the turnbuckle on it, and then that supports this corner. It's funny how I get up here. Oh, there we go. And I just gently put this thing down. Sometimes it catches on that last screw. There we go. See, now the traction strut is engaged. And see, this weighs quite a bit.
That was all your design?
Well, yeah. This, you can see this corner is unsupported.
Was this from boating or was it from...
I worked as an auto mechanic. I grew up in an Appalachian coal town. And, you're either on the football team or you work on cars. That was about it. There's a little strut right here.
Heavy duty hardware.
Well, I didn't want the kids falling out of bed. But there, see, it's down, and this will support at least 200-300 pounds of people.
Size, yeah.
Underneath here, I have a ladder. Yeah.
And now you see the second window revealed.
Yeah, that's it. She wanted little secret windows where you could look out. And then I did them so that they appeared to be just kind of holes knocked out of the siding. The window's actually a lot wider, and she wanted a secret compartment so she could put things back in here. So, secret compartment for a kid. That's, by the way, those are all the projects that I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
So when someone calls, I can pull out the plans, and I sit here. I got a nice view. I sit here, 12 hours a day. Then finally, this part here, you can see the grill under it. This lifts up, this rolls out, and built into the wall here are 4 kilowatts of batteries. Because on this island, the power used to be out at least 10 days a year. It's really good to have this place you can back up onto. The wood stove heats it really well. It's got enough energy so that everybody can run their internet stuff and charge batteries. And there's a little fridge. It says little refrigerator, wood storage. So it's sort of our lifeboat when the power goes out. We just move in here. And the most interesting part about this project was that it was meant to be this fun thing for Hannah. And what happened is that this thing turned into our family room because it's warmer than the rest of the house. What'll happen is I work here every night of the week. I normally work till about 11 every night. That's when I do my design work. And then, but usually around 9 o'clock, Hannah or Beth will wander in. I'll sit there and draw, and they'll watch a movie. And this little stove will heat the place up. Even if it's like 30, 40 degrees out, it'll get the place toasty in about 15 minutes.
进入直播间。
12-speaker Harman Kardon audio in the most advanced Subaru Outback ever.
The other thing that I found really remarkable, and I'm now starting to do on houses, is that from here to the house is no big deal. I'm working out here, or any of us are in here. I mean, it could be storming out, and you have to use the bathroom, or you want something from the big refrigerator in the kitchen, and it is just simply no big deal to go walk out. You can't get too wet or too cold in 35 feet. Right? So what I've discovered is that having houses in pieces where you move between one and the other is not a problem. It's simply not. And actually this house down in Oregon, there's the door open. You can see it's still outside. And there's the ocean beyond. The owners are the first couple that I convinced would be a good idea. And it's really windy, and it's a courtyard house. But between the different guest rooms and the main parents' place, there's about a 25, 30-foot walk, and you're out in the wind and rain. It's covered, and it's no big deal. If you live in a place that has an ecosystem, that has life to it, that is connected to the planet, I'll tell you, what normally happens is, I want a bag of potato chips or something from the fridge. And I get right about to here, and like last night, there was the most spectacular half moon, and it was setting right over the Olympics, right out there. And so you're walking out and you go, and it almost doesn't matter what kind of weather it is. I always sort of stop here and look at it. And the other funny thing about it is a personal surprise, is that at the time we were doing this, I was designing a 500,000 square foot office building for the federal government in Portland, Oregon. And this one's 80 square feet, that one's 500,000. I got just as much pleasure, if not more pleasure, out of doing this than I did that. And that building, that high-rise we did, won the award as the best high-rise in the Western Hemisphere and the most energy-efficient high-rise in the Western Hemisphere. And that made me realize as I get older that I've got to keep making stuff. And it doesn't matter whether it's a $131 million high-rise or a $20,000 cabin. It doesn't matter. As long as I'm making something, I'm happy. This is just funny. When I was young and really crazy, see that frame? That's an elevator. When I was really crazy, I built an elevator. Well, we're 75 feet above the beach, so that takes us down to our dock.
Does it work?
Oh yeah, sure.
No.
Oh yeah.
You sit in that.
Oh yeah, no, we've been using it. All my kids grew up with it. I keep it very well maintained, and it's a big winch, it's a motorized winch. Okay. And then this, you see this big heavy rubber cable? Yeah. The traveling cable goes down with it. You want to go in it?
Sure, if you want to.
There you go. Yeah. It's
sit down here.
Yeah. When I turn the key, there's going to be about a 5-second delay. I put that in there for mistakes.
Okay.
Just stay away from things. It takes 1 minute and 23 seconds to the beach and down, and 1 minute and 23 up.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm going to take you back.
Yep.
I'll stop and take you back up. Okay?
Yep, go for it.
Actually, I should cut this blackberry, but this is where we get all our blackberry. We only cut them when they get into the cable. Anyhow, so yeah, this is a little homemade affair. You know, what happened was there was a guy who lived up the beach. His name was Brinton Sprague, old guy, and he had designed all the elevators for Grand Coulee Dam. And between his son and Brinton and I, we built this thing for $5,000.
Think about the moments you've been missing. The small ones you've been dreaming about. The ones you couldn't be more ready for. And even the ones that take you by surprise. These are the moments you'll remember. The ones that are impossible to forget. To new memories, Hilton, and our family of hotels.
Oh,
欢
I
迎
got dirt
喵
on the
声
floor here.
进入直播间。
The only thing that we had help with was this piece of glass, because it weighs 400 pounds. That point up there had to be lined up on that point down there. So when we framed it and got it all framed, it was off by about 1/4 of an inch. So I got you know what a come along is? I unscrewed everything, by the way, there's no nails in this building. It's totally screwed together. I unscrewed the plywood, which is what gives it rigidity, and I hooked the come along down there and then put a bolt through there, and I ratcheted it back to perfectly square, and then I re-screwed the plywood on it. It's within 1/8 now. And then I wanted it light, so I made this is called a spaced column. There's 2 2x4s, but I've tied them together with these steel pieces. So it keeps them light, but it also, you know, they're not going to buckle because they act together. So I wanted to have a lot of view. So I held the beam back 2 feet away from where the glass would be. And then I cantilevered everything out, and you can see I used 2x4s, which are pretty small pieces of wood, but I did a lot of them. They're on 8-inch centers. And then I wanted to be sure that I didn't insult the beam. Okay, what I mean insult the beam is that what's carrying this whole thing? The beam, right? If I had put a lot of mullions and a lot of vertical pieces in the glass, there'd be confusion on what's holding the roof up. So for the beam to be honored and to say that I'm here, I'm Atlas holding up the world, I couldn't have anything outboard of it. It allows the beam to tell the story that it's doing the work. Everything in this world has a nature. And if they have a nature, then I have chosen to work with that nature. So instead of thinking of architecture as a style or as virtual, as you go on in life, you start to see the really beautiful things are the things that are tangible, that you can touch, that's real. So when all these, the new isms that come at us that all stem from virtual reality and virtual this and virtual that is a way to divorce ourselves from this living planet. I've been lecturing on this for years, and the fact of the matter is, it's successful. I've become a well-known architect. I've done well, and however your bent is in life. Success can lie in responding to the real world. Because everything in this world is different, every topography, every combination of flora, fauna, topography, and human program, they're all different. Because of that, there's an infinite variety of design that can be created not by an ism or not by a style, but can be created by revealing and reflecting the unique circumstances of every condition on this planet. I've been thinking about writing something as I get a lot older. I'm 70. About staying put. Americans move around a lot. They move an average of 11 to 15 times. And I've been here for 44 years. I know every tree. I know every plant. Let's see this little fir here? This little guy? This little fir appeared in the gravel, and it was about that tall, and I've watched it. It put on 2 feet this year. It's funny, last year it didn't, we had 3 years of drought. Last year it didn't put on an inch. It actually, part of the top died away, and now it's got 2 tops. I think the taller one will win out. But it's that kind of stuff where every plant, every tree, and this was really sad. There was a madrona here, and I wanted a yard, and there was a branch that came off this way, and I cut off this one to make the yard. That was the first thing I did. But it still flourished because there was a septic system in here. And then about 10 years ago, the septic system failed, and I had to move it up to the back acre. And as soon as we cut out the septic system, the tree started dying because it was living off the septic system, and then finally this winter it died completely. And then we thought, well, it's got this big hole, we'll plant a new madrona at the base. So we planted that and then realized the ground was so dry that we needed to get water to it. So then I came up with this idea of doing a funnel, and it works. It waters the tree. You see it's got new growth on it. And I just thought it'd be sort of poetic because the old tree is funneling water to the new life.
Tucson has over a 4,000-year history of continuous farming, despite this being a dryland desert community. People thrive creating crops, domesticating crops that are uniquely adapted to this climate. But in less than 100 years, we almost wiped it out by becoming reliant on very extractive pumps, extracting the groundwater, diverting the river, to the extent that we actually killed our river. We dropped our groundwater table over 300 feet. So we didn't want to plug into that paradigm. when we moved here, at the time this neighborhood had a real bad reputation for crime and had been forgotten. So we were able to afford a property where otherwise we couldn't have. My brother and I, we purchased this property in 1994. We were able to do that because it was about to be condemned. When we moved here, so much of the public right-of-way was this bleak solar oven-like experience. And we found a lot of our neighbors didn't know one another. You just didn't want to be out here. I mean, that's just bleak. One of my primary mentors was an African water farmer, Mr. Zephaniah Piri Maseko. When I spent just one day with him seeing how he converted a wasteland into an oasis just by planting the rain, I said, look, the water situation's so bad in my community, I want to leave. Where should I go? And he slapped me on the shoulder and said, you can't go. If you run away from your problems, you'll just plant problems everywhere you go. You got to go home, set your roots deeper than you ever thought possible, and figure out solutions. And so we organized what has become an annual tree planting project. As a neighborhood, we've all come together to plant over 1,400 trees in the neighborhood since 1996.
欢迎同老
So
爷
that's
进入
great
直播间。
planting trees, but we wanted to take it further because we were also wanting to push a regenerative system, not just something that's sustainable, but something that can regenerate itself and get better over time. Edible fruit off this cactus. This is a Santa Rita prickly pear. So this is the fruit of the barrel cactus. Both the seeds are edible and the yellow fruit. It's great for making chutneys. The seeds, and you can soak this yellow flesh in cold water. The water will become slimy and you can use that as a free hair conditioner. All of this has traditionally been used by the peoples of this area. So when we were looking to what to plant, we looked to the ethnobotanical record. And this is the Palo Verde tree. The Sonoran Desert has got many native bean trees that thrive just on our natural rainfall alone. And then the way we water all this is not by bringing in plastic pipe, but we plant it within or beside these basins. So when it rains, the rain is the primary irrigator of our landscapes. We just got 1.25 inches of rain in about 30 minutes. Here we have a water harvesting chicane or a pull out that comes out into the street, narrows the street. That is full of water. So there's that basin, it filled up. When we started this was illegal. When we started to cut, right by where the lizard is, we cut the street curb to make an inlet for the water flowing along the street gutter to get into the street side tree. That was illegal at the time. So we'd only do it on Sunday mornings, so no one from the city was watching. And we only started with one. So here, we cut the curb, and the slope of the street is this way, but I will do the water walk. So if I'm the rain, I'm gonna move down to the gutter,
欢迎南城巷尾进入直播
and then I
间。
go to the path of least resistance, I drop down to the low spot, and this is going the opposite slope of the road. It's going this way.
欢迎一条自由的游鱼进入直播
And
间
once。it's full, the water backs up to the inlet, and no more comes in, but nothing leaves. So it's a very self-maintaining system. It's a backwater or an eddy basin. So once the water backs up, this is all pooled, still water. Then the surplus will go down the curb gutter to the next curb cut, and that one will fill up. Sweet, totally full. And then the next
欢迎
one,
吕推进入
totally
直播
full,
间。
sweet. This basin's totally full, love it. Next, totally full. And it continues down, and then the neighbor down there's got a whole bunch of basin. In the urban environment, the street is raised in the middle, and it drains water to either side. And the water flows along the street gutter. So in the past, that water would just go to the storm drain.
欢迎肖可奈的叶子进入直播
We have
间
an。existing dip in the curb where there used to be a driveway. And in the past, the water would flow through here, down the driveway, into the garage, and out the side door until it flooded the neighbors. So that wasn't so good. So we built this big earth and rock berm back here. So now, when it rains, all that water comes off the street, fills this whole area up, and we capture thousands of gallons of water in one rainstorm. But check out how this basin totally filled up. Okay, and to what depth? It's 8 inches deep right here, but the basin gets deeper there. So we're probably good 18 inches deep over there.
欢迎电 F 进入直播间。
8 inches deep at the inlet. Sweet. Now, there is a pathway that goes through here. So there's a puddle there right now, and that will all infiltrate. Within 20 minutes, all this water will be infiltrated. But there is a temporary puddle. There's some water in there yet, and there, but none in the pathway. Just 1 hour after the rain stopped. There's no problems with mosquitoes, and there's no problem with smell of sitting water because it doesn't sit around. Because we planted the living sponge. Look at this soil. Okay, we're in the desert. It's a lovely fertile sponge. So this is why the water infiltrates so quickly. And where did all this come from? We don't rake up the leaves when the leaves fall. Leaves are called leaves because you're supposed to leave them so that they can break down and the nutrients can go back into the plant. You get a closed nutrient loop. Here's a bunch of the prunings. When we prune, we cut up the prunings and drop them right back in place. And look at all this sweet stuff right here. So that's mycelium, beneficial fungi. And its microscopic roots fuse with the roots of all these plants. And thereby, the plants are so much better able to uptake the water we've passively and freely harvested. We've caught thousands of gallons of water that otherwise just would have gone down the street into the storm drain.
山羊蓉蓉说：“你在看山羊画画。”
All these street-side basins are irrigating these street-side trees for free. So here,
山羊蓉蓉说：“一边看电视，一边画画。”
This is the after now. And now we've got this walkway that's much more shaded. I can hear the cicadas. We've got the birds. Okay, so I'm walking in life, and you know, if I come home depressed or frustrated, just to be able to come into this life, and every day it's getting better and it's evolving. I mean, look at, bam, look at all that. We're in a desert. Look at how all this stuff is just cranking.
电变 S 说：“哦，原来是
vegetation
山羊在画
native to
画。
this area to support wildlife. We also selected all the plants to produce food for us, medicine, craft materials. So this is the prickly pear fruit, or the tuna. So we make juice out of this, we make syrups, make margarita mix, natural sweeteners. I did not learn any of this in school. I got into this after college when I took a permaculture course. It tries to turn problems into solutions with living systems. So I just started practicing in my own backyard in front of my house. So come on into the property. Did you guys see the outdoor shower? Come in here. So all we did is we took old tree limbs from trees that were pruned, and those are our fence posts. Then we just took some salvaged steel remesh. So we weave palm fronds in them. And all these palm fronds we get from our neighbors. So we have hot water from the solar hot water heater. That's the hot and that's the cold. And then you see these drains here. Each one goes to a different tree in the yard. So right now we're in summer. So just a few days ago, we got the first good rain of our summer rainy season. So what I did is I created some quick furrows and I planted tepary beans, which are the most drought-tolerant domesticated bean, thanks to the Tona A'odam. The amazing thing about this bean, if you give it too much water, it won't produce. If you give it less water, it produces more beans. So great crop to raise just on rainwater irrigation alone. But one thing that helps all this produce better, we plant these oyas, these pots. If we irrigate these plants, we'll fill it with rainwater from the rainwater tanks. The water will slowly wick through the clay pot into the root zone of the plants. So it's a more efficient subsurface irrigation system because we don't lose so much water to evaporation. And it encourages deeper growth. All the water needs for the garden are met by rainwater. Now we just got our first rain of the summer, so now we've got these edible tuber-rooted queen's wreath vines erupting with their foliage. Within a couple weeks, this whole trellis will be covered in free shade with edible roots and irrigated for free just by the rainwater that hits that roof goes into those cisterns, which shade the garden from the afternoon. So this way we only need to maintain one area open to the winter sun. For the windows, for the solar panels, for the winter garden, and within that same aperture, we put our solar oven. Okay, so I got a bean dish going.
And you just leave it.
Yeah.
Here you have some.
And you don't burn anything, okay? The other great thing is, okay, it's hot. Today in Tucson's 105 degrees Fahrenheit. You do not want to cook beans on a stove all day in Tucson in summer because it heats up your house. So this keeps the cooking heat outside and takes no fuel.
Did you make it?
Yeah, this is all scrap. I made this over 20 years ago. This is just wood I found in people's garbage cans. I built it around the glass that I salvaged. And I just bent some sheet metal that I found to protect the inside and wood on the outside. With this, I can just drop the metal roof, just like the house metal roof. I can leave it outside, never take it in. And it's just a piece of scrap corrugated steel roofing. And it's insulated with 2 inches of fiberglass insulation. So we just slide it. You got to move it like 3 times a day so it's facing the sun. And then we have one other thing capturing the sun, and this is our solar hot water heaters. So they're batch style solar hot water heaters. So this is our only source of hot water. It's conventional gas water heaters. We got some old ones. We stripped off the sheet metal and then used the sheet metal to create the cradle that it's sitting on. We took off the fiberglass insulation, painted everything black. And what's great about the gas, it's got a hole down the middle. So there's more surface area with a gas water heater than you would an electric. What I've been wanting to do here on the property is to push the envelope. Our non-electric doorbell. This is just an old gas canister. I wanted to push the bounds of the way we typically do things in the US. So when my brother and I bought the old adobe house where my brother's family currently lives, we spent 2 years fixing it up. It's adobe, which means it's sun-baked clay or earthen block. The garage was already in place when we moved here. It was built in 1962. In 2010, my brother and I, we turned the one-car garage into a cottage. Thus, we call it the garage. It's also a shed-sized condo, so a shondo, and I have many more of those. In the garage, I wanted to maximize the use of small space, but I also wanted to reuse a lot of materials. So an old salvage door handle. All the wood is salvaged. So these are the original cinder block walls of the one-car garage. No insulation in the structure originally. So what we did is we put 2 inches of rigid foam insulation on the exterior. So we don't have insulation, we have exhalation. And then the mass holds on to the more moderate interior temperature, while the insulation, which is on the exterior, is buffering the mass from the extremes. We raise the roof and set the angle of the roof to the winter sun so we don't shade our neighbors' south-facing windows. Original concrete floor, ground it down, stained it with ferrous sulfate. The cost of staining this floor was maybe $2 because ferrous sulfate is an agricultural product, but it makes for a great stain of this color. All the steel is salvaged steel. All the pipe is from old piping in old warehouses that were being demolished. Built the loft, and all this wood here is from the Dunbar School, built in 1918, 3 blocks away. This is old wood flooring for all our trim. This is electrical conduit with bicycle goosenecks. This is my dad's old lawnmower. These are all the license plates of all the cars he ever owned. And this table is called the Thanksgiving table because a friend of a friend had too many unexpected family come over for Thanksgiving, and he threw this together with scrap wood he had in a pile and old posts from his stairway banister. The wardrobe I just made out of scrap 2x material and old flooring. Never made shelves before, so it was all a little experimental thing anyway. So I like multi-use of things. I use this ladder for getting up and down the loft, but also for doing any jobs that require a ladder. And it's hooked in place, so no risk of this falling. I've got really easy to access railing, which serves double function because every morning I like to do my dips, so it works great for that. So here I have the bed side of the loft, plenty room to sit up in bed or whatnot. I put in curtains. This is scrap material, and this gives me privacy if I'm napping. Now, if anyone is sleeping up here that sleepwalks or needs to use the bucket at night, got the little trap door, so no problem. So this is my office loft. Put the seat on wheels, so despite the fact that I don't have a lot of headroom, no problem for me to move around here. So if I've got folks that need to use the toilet at night, just got a little bucket toilet. So this is meant just to be used for urine, just a bedpan. In the morning, you would just dump it into the compost toilet.
Did you have building experience?
No, not really, no. I did archaeology after college for a year, and I was digging up these adobe structures all the time. I just got a bug, and then my brother and I bought the adobe house. He and I didn't really have money, so we did 95% of the work on that house. But we didn't know what we were doing when we started. So we can fix anything here, because we've done the bulk of the work. So when we came over to here, I didn't want a 2-year project like that house was. So this was done in just a few months. You'll notice we don't have any west-facing windows because I don't want that hot afternoon sun from summer. But I did want a view from the west. So I put in this mirror. So I put this on hinges. So wherever I'm sitting or hanging out in the structure, I can angle this so I get the view from here of whatever that is. And in the winter months, when the sun's lower in the sky, I can direct that direct sunlight to that wall, to this floor, whatever high mass surface I want to absorb that winter heat. I love books. I'm a bit of a book geek. And I don't want bookshelves taking up space. So I put the bookshelf behind where the door opens. Okay, I don't lose any space with the books. And the other thing going on here is we're in the guest room. This couch is a pull-out bed, and these curtains I just pull out. So whoever is sleeping here, hanging out here, if they want the visual privacy, they got it. The main way we heat the structure in the winter is through all the sun that radiates through those winter sun-facing windows. And that heat is then banked in the mass of the floor, in the mass of the walls, but we do have a backup. So this is a radiant heater, electric heater, which we run off our solar panels. I've never had to use it for more than 10 days in a year because we're getting enough heat from the orientation of the building and the south-facing windows the rest of the time. So I ensure that my south-facing windows are not blocked by any plantings in the winter. So with these edible cactus, we eat the pads and the fruit. I actually trim it down to this level. Same thing here. So the low winter sun, all of it can go through, and I designed my roof overhangs to give me full summer shade and full winter sun. Into spring, look, now the shadow's down to here, but that's too much. This lower overhang is extendable. We maximize our winter sun exposure on the south side of the structure, and then we maximize our shading on the west and the east. So how we do that on the west is with the planting of our trees on the west and those of our neighbors, the fence, the clothesline, the solar clothes dryer, and then my exterior closet. Yeah, so my camping gear, some of my books. That's great. Yeah. So it shades the hottest, most exposed wall of the structure. Then on the east side, I placed the covered porch. This gives me more indoor-outdoor space, but it's shaded all morning long. That's boosted even more with all the trees planted to the east and the northeast and the north. And I take this shade cloth down in the winter. And this is where I have my outdoor kitchen. This chest freezer is my refrigerator. I just have a temperature controller which keeps it from dropping to freezing temperatures. It being a chest freezer, you only open it from the top. So the cold air drops so it doesn't drain out. This uses 1/10 of the power of a similarly sized refrigerator. It's because it being a freezer, it's better insulated than a refrigerator. So I only have refrigerated goods here.
电电 S 说，一边看电视一边画画，不会画错。分析
Something
码
about a small living space, I think it's key to maximize your outdoor space, both for gathering, fun and all, but also for storage, because stuff that doesn't care about the temperature at which it's stored, I store outside. That's part of the pantry. It extends
山羊蓉蓉
to
说
the，
只有
tool
耳朵
lockers I
在
got
听，
from
眼睛没
Craigslist.
看。
And this extends.
山羊蓉蓉说，
So,
跟
I've
背景
got
音
all
乐
my
一样。
mason jars and stuff here. Got the Tupperware and the salad spinner, toilet paper. Okay, so it's pantry in the light color, and then in this color, then I start getting into some of my pruning tools and stuff. I've got extra rain gear hat, robe for guests. So, and the other nice thing is, okay, due west is that way. So in the summer months, we have direct sun hitting the
电电 S 说，
north-facing wall
你
of
可
the
真好
house in the， early
把电
morning
视
and
留
the
给
late
我们看
afternoon. So these lockers, this storage, it helps act as a sunscreen in the hot months to shade and cool the north-facing wall. And then we put in this little section of fence so my
山
neighbors
羊
don't
蓉蓉
have
说
to watch me
，DAI
cooking. We didn't
画
do a
画
full
看腻了
section
就
of
看电视。
fence because I want to be able to come to this open section and talk to Shadrach or Levon. This also protects me from break-in because they can see anyone who comes up onto the porch, and I can see who's coming up to their place. And then on here, I'm growing, this is a native passion vine, which has awesome passion fruit. Got edible bean plant here. Got a watermelon coming, a native blackberry, night blooming cereus, which has great edible fruits, wild chili plant. All this is irrigated for free from the gray water that comes down the sink of the, can you turn on the sink and send some water down there? What happens is we distribute that flow to multiple points. So the water comes here, and then you'll start seeing the water there. It splits in this double L. So we're distributing the water to 1, 2, 3, 4 different points. So I don't have to move the water. And it's got a 2% slope, which means a 1/4-inch drop for every horizontal foot. Since it's a continuous slope, water never sits in the pipe, never gets
欢颜
stinky.
粉就完事
And with
没毛
gray
病
water,，it's
进入
important
直
to
播间。
distribute the water to multiple points so the water quickly infiltrates. So here's our worm bin. We can take the rinds, put it in there, and then that'll turn into awesome worm castings and soil that I can use to fertilize my plants for free. So I have my worm bin
欢迎拔道犬
right
进入
here
直播间。
next to the kitchen. Super easy and convenient. And I have holes in the bottom of that bin, so the surplus water waters the mesquite tree, which shades and cools all of this, including my house, and is in the root zone of all these plants. So this is my little 2-burner camp stove. I originally experimented with an old vintage stove, but the flame would always blow out. So I found a camp stove designed for outdoor use is just a whole heck of a lot better.
Set sail on the dawn of an adventure. And join the quest to become the king of pirates in One Piece Treasure Cruise. Reunite with various characters and recruit your pirate crew with friends from around the world. Hoarding treasure and conquering adversaries. Show off your pirate prowess and take to the sea. Adventure awaits. One Piece Treasure Cruise. Together as One Piece.
バンダイナムコ
The first FDA-approved medication of its kind, Tremfya, can help adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis uncover clearer skin that can last. Most patients
告
who
诉
saw
你说，
90%
坐
clear
久了
skin
坐
at
下拉
28
伸。
weeks stayed clear through 48 weeks. In another study, the majority of Tremfya patients saw 90% clearer skin at 3 years.
serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, or if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Tremfya. Uncover clearer skin that can last. Janssen can help you explore cost support options.
Right behind it, I have the 5-gallon propane tank, and I find I only need 10 gallons of propane a year. I'm cooking every day, multiple times a day, either on the stove or in the solar oven. So I like having the stove really close to the fridge, to my counter, to the pantry, and to the sink. And the sink here, I've got a couple options when you want to use water. So when you're done eating your watermelon and you want to conserve water, you can use the tippy tap, this little foot pedal. So I push on that, and that then moves this string, and then just a little bit of water comes out, but more than enough to wash my hands. When my brother and I bought the property, we wanted to use this site as our playground and our laboratory. And we wanted to harvest rainwater, but we'd never done it before. So we started by harvesting the rainwater in the landscape, where we thought that's the easiest place to begin. But when I converted my one-car garage into a cottage, I wanted to push the envelope even more, not just with maximize a small space, but I wanted the only water used within and around this building to be rainwater. This is a very clean surface. The nice thing about a metal roof is if birds are in the tree and poop on it, it gets hot enough that it solar cooks the poop and sterilizes it. We try and use all non-toxic materials. So we have galvanized steel roof and then a non-toxic white elastomeric paint. We then use gravity to take the water from the gutter through the downspout onto here. This water comes through that gutter into here and then into this gutter, which then drains via gravity into those 2 rainwater tanks. But we're not just getting the water from this building. This is about 300 square feet of roof area. I wanted another 100 square feet. So next to where the electrical line comes into the post, that last section of roof of the house, I collect water in that gutter, which goes into that white pipe down underground and then up this beige pipe. The way it works is this outlet is about 6 inches lower than the inlet over there. So the whole pipe fills with water and then overflows here. It's only drizzling now, so we don't see a lot of water, but right there, water's dripping on through. That water came from that roof. So gravity is moving that water for free from that house roof to this gutter and into those tanks. The water then comes down the gutter and hits this rain head screen.
山羊蓉蓉说：“这叫可持续发展。”
The water clean is we don't have any toxic materials. Secondly, we have the rain head screen, which is at a 45-degree angle, so leaves and debris is pushed off, but the water goes through. Then the first flush of water will fill this first flush pipe. So the water that captures the bird poop and the dust off the roof will fill this up. I've already drained it after the rain. But I just unscrew that, the fertile bird poop water pours out, which this fruiting cactus loves, and then I screw it back on. So the dirtiest water is diverted out of the flow. Okay, so when it's stormed, dirty water fills this, it's filled, and then the cleaner water is what goes into the 2 tanks. And then we take the water out of the tank, not at the very bottom, but a little bit off the bottom. So the sludge and stuff accumulates at the bottom but isn't drawn out. So this is rainwater that I get from here. And this pipe is connected to these 2 tanks. And right now the tanks are about that full. There's no pump, but look at the water